back, everyone, to another episode of Subscription E-commerce Live. I am excited to introduce Katharine McKee to y'all today. She came in through the D2C Slack fam, right?
Yep.
And that's a great group. I feel like there are a lot of solid people who have been recommended to us from there, and I feel like an extended member of the family. But she's going to talk a lot about go-to-market strategy. You are with, is it, oh my gosh, I want to say Morphology, but I know that's the wrong, it is?
No,
okay.
That's perfect. Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay. It totally disappeared from my head. So Morphology Consulting, she works with e-commerce brands across several different verticals. And first things first, kind of tell us about you, Morphology, and how you got to where you are right now, so we can kind of know what questions to ask you about based on your experiences.
Fair. So I'm the founder of Morphology Consulting. It's a digital commerce consultancy, and we focus on helping brands improve their profitability long-term via using systems correctly. So my background, I'm a one-trick pony, so please only ask e-commerce questions. It's the only thing I know. Been in e-commerce for 15 years, and I was super lucky. I got to be employee one at a bunch of companies that were just sort of dipping their toe into it. So I've done it in luxury, in beauty, in CPG. I most recently built it out for a big denim conglomerate as a full-time employee at the head of e-commerce. And prior to that, I was with Coty. So under their mass pillar, so they're like a CPG beauty brand, and they have luxury and then mass. I headed up the mass brand for e-commerce and sort of digital go-to-market. And that is team, org structure, training, tech stack, and sort of how you think about it, how you take your business that has done very well in a traditional market and you transition it into the digital commerce market and what that means. So pricing, how you set up your promotions, how you set up your inventory, your forecasting, and truly how you set it up to win in this space, because it's very, very different from relationship management and what really it took to succeed in traditional retail. So we find in digital commerce that there is a lot less direction and there's a lot less clarity around how you do it and a whole lot of misinformation. So we spend a lot of time sort of steering brands into the do this, not that kind of space.
Oh, yes. So super tough to navigate, right? And I was at Circuit City during the time that Amazon was just eating up brands like brick and mortar stores who had specialty offerings. So it's always interesting to talk to someone who also saw companies and handheld them through those transitions, but then also what is it like to launch right now? And you don't have an existing something else, but the world of e-com feels like you need a guide to help you navigate it, right? Because there's a lot of self-help tools that help you do some of the wrong things. So we're going to get into that a little bit today. Last part of my intro is just to remind y'all that this is brought to you by ARPU. GetARPU.com. Your shipping soon notifications should be making you more money, but I'm going to tell you that they should do that in a way that I kind of stalked Katharine's LinkedIn earlier. And I found a great phrase on there. We were talking about being unobtrusively available. So in that sense, she meant you should be offering your customers things that they want in nice ways, not popping it in their face or so serve first and then give them paths to conversions or the things that they want. So I thought about how we apply that to the kind of subscriber coming soon notification where the first information is what you need. This is going to ship in 3 days. And then the beta, the secondary information is, and hey, you can add something or you can delay or you can do these things. So I feel like we are very much mentally aligned on what it means to create a good customer experience versus one that is not. So Katharine says that you as an e-commerce merchant are probably making some mistakes, especially Shopify selling, that you don't know that you're making. And those are making things more difficult and more expensive. So can you kind of guide us through what those mistakes might be and how you came to recognize those and how you help companies shift away from those and do things that actually improve margins instead of make them dwindle?
Absolutely. That is a fantastic intro. I think the thing that we run into a lot, and subscription is a great model for this. D2C is a good model for it. And D2C kind of hit that peak where it became easy, right? Like all these tools came up, Shopify being one of them. And Shopify is incredible. This is not in any way a knock on Shopify or on Google or Amazon or any of the other tools. But they came up on the assumption that you know what you're doing and that you're aware that it's a tool and not a partner. So one of the biggest first ones is that Shopify is a system, so is Google, so is Amazon, with a one specific purpose. That specific purpose is not the same thing as your use case. So you don't share a goal. Shopify doesn't share any goals with you. Shopify has their own goal. And the way to succeed in any of these systems is to use the tool for its intended purpose to gain its efficiency for your own goal. But so in this case, Shopify is a hammer. It's not the person at Home Depot that's helping you. So if you buy a hammer, the assumption for everyone around you is that you know what a hammer's for, and it's hammering a nail into a board or taking a nail out of a board, and that's it. But you don't have to do that, right? Like the hammer's not going to stop you. So if you buy the hammer and you take it home and you smash a pudding cup open and give it to your kid, like your kid's going to be unhappy, the pudding's going to be gross. It worked, like it's open. But if you went to the hammer and you were like, what are you doing, hammer? Like that's not how you open a pudding cup. It's an inanimate object, so it's not going to respond to you. And if you go to Home Depot and you complain about it, and this is, I think, where a lot of the problems come up. You go to Home Depot and you complain, and the people at Home Depot just kind of think you're nuts. And they're not going to say that to your face. They're not going to say you did it wrong. They're going to be like, ooh, that tracks. Yeah, I don't think it would be good at opening a pudding cup. But they're not going to be like, do you know what a hammer is for? And give you a class on it. And I think this is one of the big problems that people run into, is that these tools are very specific and they're not 100% of your use case, but they assume that you know what your use case is. They assume that you're slotting it in where it's necessary for you. So then if there's a complaint or a problem or things aren't working well, I actually saw this great tweet the other day that aligns really well with this. And it was sort of like a dig at Google. And the person tweeting had said something like, it's so funny that when you talk to your Google ad sales rep, that you're not getting enough traffic, that their only answer is to buy more ads. And all the comments on it were very like, yeah, Google's out to get you, like they're jerks, they're just trying to take your money. They're not. That if you go to someone who is selling an ad to give you traffic and you say, I don't have enough traffic, their only tool in their arsenal is to be like, you could buy more. The actual problem is that your website sucks. And the Google rep's not going to tell you that. They're not even going to check. They're not even going to know. Right. And I think people get stuck being like, don't we share a goal? And you don't. They're a tool that you are allowed to use. But if you use it wrong, there's no one really to tell you. There's no one really to correct you. And I think then you run into, there are all these forums and these places that people will share their experience, and most of them align. Almost everyone has the same wrong use case. And because you all use it wrong, all of us use it wrong, we agree with each other. And then we're like, yeah, Google is a jerk. And you're like, no, it's not Google's fault that you bought ads for a website that has a terrible rank. Those are expensive and they don't work very well at all, but it's a choice. Like you're welcome to do whatever you want with it. So I think that's where we run into it. And Shopify is a great example in that it's incredible, right? Like having Shopify or their compatriots really democratized being able to take your business online. A Shopify site is a website. When you buy a template, it is a website. However, if you are running a brand, you don't need just a website. You need a commerce site. What Shopify sells you is 85% of a commerce website. So it is a real website. If a dev looks at it, it's real, it works, it is online, the pages connect, like it works. It is not searchable, it's not indexable, it's not rankable. Those are all the places that you make money. Shopify assumes that you know that, and Shopify assumes that you understand that you bought the shell of a house, not an entire house, and that you know that you need to put that extra system in. The thing is, it looks like a house, right? Like, I don't know if anyone is an Arrested Development fan, but I always find this one funny, and I might just be like dating myself, but in Arrested Development, they move into the show home and it's not a house, but like if you drove by it, it looks like a house. It's the same thing with Shopify. You look at it, or a web dev looks at it, it is definitely a website. It's not a website for your purposes, but it is a real one, right? So then you look at it and you're like, okay, what do I need to do to my house? I need to decorate it. So I have the foundation, I have the walls, I have the roof, windows, doors, like good to go. It's a house. I'm going to decorate it. I'm going to make it mine. That will still be true. and everyone you show it to will agree with you that it's a house. It is not legally a home. You can't live in it until you have water and sewage and heat, right? But you need to do that. Like if you ask a contractor if it's a house, they'll be like, yep. Right. And I think that's the underpinning of a Shopify website. And it's very easy to do. I see 100% of my clients have done this. They go in, they pick a template that looks good. Great. It is a real website. They put it up. Great. They hire a really talented graphic designer to brand it really well and it looks really good. Great. Their traffic is terrible. Their CAC is through the roof and they can't tell why. And then they're moving into the next system, right? So Shopify was set up incorrectly, not from Shopify's perspective. Shopify was very clear with you with what they sold you, but you can't really tell that it didn't work except that you don't have traffic and you don't have a good organic rank. The lack of traffic and the bad organic rank is what sets your bid price in any ads that you buy. So if you see that you don't have organic traffic in and you need to buy the traffic, search engines can see that your website isn't very good. So they don't give you a good rank and they're not going to let you buy traffic to drive people to a bad rank. So it's super expensive. As you're doing that, you are letting both systems know that you are choosing to use them incorrectly. So it just gets more expensive. The Shopify site will still function. It is still a real website, but your rank will never improve. And the more traffic that you buy into it, the more that Google or whatever search engine is aware that you mean it to be that way. You don't want a website that has a good rank. That score is then used in Facebook ads, Instagram ads. It's used literally everywhere as a score of what your value is. All of that is where your margin gets destroyed and it doesn't need to, right? Like it all stems from that first mistake.
Okay, so then how do you fix that mistake? Like, what do you recommend to clients that they do so that big gap in the margin gets smaller? Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are two places to do it. The first is, and this matters, I think probably the most for subscription. The first is being hyper clear on who your customer actually is. So agnostic of your brand, agnostic of you. Like a subscription model business is based on the fact that the problem is recurring, right? And that the solution is consumable. And so the problem is just going to keep coming up. And luckily for you, a person who has a subscription business, people still need your product and it's keep coming back, which is amazing. Do they need your product though? And like, are they aware that you are the best solution for them on the market? Almost everyone who is in Shopify who has a template that doesn't rank very well, your data is going to be wrong. So when you go back to look at what your customers wanted and how they behaved on your site and what they looked for, the data will be wrong, which will give you bad ads, which will again, destroy your margins. So when you look at it, agnostic of you, what is it that you solve? What specifically do you solve? And are you following what your consumer cares about? So if you're looking at data broadly in Google or wherever you are, but if you're looking at broad consumer data, if I'm say buying vitamins, like I have a vitamin subscription and I get them every 30 days, my vitamin needs are not the same month over month and they're not the same day over day. So after a while of taking them, I won't feel good, right? Like they stop working. I need a different one that brand absolutely could offer to me. You know that I'm a woman, you know the different factors in my life, and you should be watching me type in my problem on your site or in Google, right? And you should be reacting to that. But if you don't have the good data for that and it's not clean and a search engine doesn't know that you are the correct answer, which is what Google wants, right? So like Shopify builds base websites. Google is data organization. It's not media. If you give them bad data, they just sort of like shuffle you off and are like, I can't tell what they're doing. But they want to have the one right answer. They want when I type in that I am tired and I live in the Northeast and I am X years old and this is what I do, that I want an answer and I want a single answer. Google wants to give me that single answer. Your website and your brand should slot into very nicely whoever your real person is, but Google needs to know that to offer that back to you. So long-winded way of saying, one, be clear on who you are, and two, that when you're setting up your template in Shopify, it needs to be a scrapeable, indexable one. So all the pretty ones, all the ones that look like, as we were talking about earlier, some brands who have had some staffing changes recently, it shouldn't look like that. Because what happens is you have a very pretty, very image heavy, very HTML5, movement heavy website, is that when a search engine reads it, you have a really low quality score because it loads slowly and it has a bunch of like nonsense on it. Like you don't need a chatbot. If you're not a doctor, you don't need a chatbot. If you have a chatbot and you sell something like vitamins, it's because your website doesn't have good information on it. Bots shouldn't be there. They're super heavy. You shouldn't have that ticker tape across. It uses up a ton of memory. It loads super slowly and human beings hate them. But all the things that became like the cool way to do it, like we all kind of collectively agreed that like these 5 Shopify templates are the ones that we're going to use. Shopify is giving customers what they said they wanted. They're pretty, but they don't rank. So you need to take a look at the elements that you have. So in a way, the search engine is going to scrape your site. Take a look at your homepage. A search engine is going to go across your site in what is kind of a grid format, like picture like an Excel spreadsheet on top of it. And it ranks your authority by square, and it goes in a grid. So square A1 is the most important square. It's the highest, most important value on the website. So if you think of it in a cube shape, upper left first page is the most important, bottom right last page is the least important. That's how a search engine is ranking what you say that you do. If your homepage has a lot of movement on it and is really image heavy, you are getting zeros in every single one of those squares. There's no actionable information in flashy ticker tape. There's nothing of value if everything above the fold is a really pretty image. It's nice for a consumer to look at. The consumer's never going to see it though, because the search engine just is reading JPEG, 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 JPEG. Unless you sell JPEGs, it's not a value to them. And I think that's I think a hard thing to internalize, because all the websites look the same. All of them have the same Shopify template. So the big one is look at your template. Where is your first piece of actionable information? And specific to your product, because yours is consumable again, right? Like subscription model. That means people are looking for new answers all the time and are not brand loyal. So what problem do you solve? Is that in the upper left? If it's not, move it up and over. And make sure that you're super clear what the problem is and how you solve it. All the information needs to be on the top and to the left. Make sure that your brand is up there. Make sure that when the nav is written out, that the nav is very little about your brand and a lot about the problems that you solve, right? Because again, you're in a very competitive market. Anything that's got a 30-day consumption rate is in a very, very deep market. You need to make sure that whatever you do is niche enough that your people get their problem solved, and also that it's clear so that when I'm complaining about my problem, that Google does not have a billion answers, it has 4, and I can pick the one that I want, right? So subscription often focuses on discounts. Don't. If your price is appropriate to the market, you don't need a discount. That's not bringing anyone new in. Or if it is, they're coming in for trial. Tell them what your product does. Because they're not Googling what's the cheapest vitamin I can buy. Nobody is. They're Googling whatever their problem is. Whatever it is you solve needs to be upfront. Maybe it's personalization. Maybe it's things that change. Like there are a lot of ways to do it in a subscription model that can still be relatively broad. Like you're not only making vitamins for 40-year-old gingers, although someone should, because my skin. But if you don't do that and you make other ones, right, the clarity is really important. And there's skincare is another one that's often on subscription. Skincare websites to a person are terrible. They're beautiful images, but it will say that it solves every single problem, right? Like if you go on Sephora and you click into almost any skincare, some of them are better, but almost any of them, it will say that this very specific serum is for dry skin, but also oily skin, and also combination skin, but also aging skin, also young skin, and also normal skin. It's not. It's for one of those things. When a search engine gets there, it cannot tell what you do because you're technically lying. So if you say you do 5 things and you don't, you do 1 thing, it doesn't give you a rank for that. It gets there and is like, I don't know, 0. You only get them out of 10. There are only 10 algorithmic inputs. So as it's looking, a lot of D2C brands are getting a lot of zeros because the search engine can't tell what you're talking about. The flip side of that is that a consumer also can't, right? Like consumers do like pictures more, and that is totally valid and is something you want to consume. You want it to be pretty on your site, or, you know, be in line with your branding. But if the search engine can't tell what you do, I definitely can't tell what you do. So there's an element of when you choose the template, calm down with the images and make it more information heavy, but also the information you put in needs to be specific to what you actually do. Whatever the problems are, explain that, because that is how people are searching for you, and that is how you get the organic traffic. On top of that, once you have a good and clean go-to-market that way, once you're very clear on what your position is and you explain it, and your website has a good rank, then all the data that comes in will give you cleaner answers to future product development, what kind of ads you should buy, and if you need any, right? Like it'll give you a much higher brand authority score. When you have that, You don't have to pay for ads, one. Two, if you are paying for ads, it's very low. An ad in Google, specifically Google ads, are punitive. They are not commercial. You are buying up risk. You are buying up the difference between what you said you do and what Google can confirm you do. The closer you are to 100, the cheaper the ads are. And if you get to 100, you can't bid on it. You are the right answer. You are 100% the right answer. No one else can bid on it. So the whole structure of like buying other people's branded keywords, the only reason you can do that is that Google can't tell who really owns it. That's a brand problem. That's not a Google messing with you problem. That's like you didn't make it clear. Probably on your Shopify website that has a terrible quality score. Take the pop-ups off.
Okay, so something that popped into my head as you were kind of explaining I want to call it like aspirational sites that we all look at and go like, oh, we should be like X, or we should make this look like Y. It's because typically those are known name brands, right? So am I accurate in summing up part of what you said, at least, in if you aren't a recognizable name brand, then the tactics that they are using on their website are probably not for you, at least visually.
That is fair, but it's not for them either.
Okay. Ooh,
like
talk about that.
A lot of sort of like hacks that came up into making your website better are very short term. And it's in line with people not 100% understanding the system, right? So it will be like, we're going to have a pop-up to ask for your email address, and it will be a 10% off. From a consumer perspective, that's just annoying. From a search engine perspective, you said that the most important thing on your entire website is this blank JPEG. So that is one, a terrible idea from a consumer perspective and from a search engine perspective. But from what you, the brand, get out of it, that is focusing on the wrong KPI. That is focusing on getting email addresses. Is that person a customer of yours? Are you going to talk to them? If you send them emails, is it going to do anything? Even if you gave them 10%, which is a nothing discount, what value did you get out of that? Because you've already taken a hit on brand equity of how the person feels when they're there, and you took a hit on your quality score by telling a search engine that you're a pop-up site. But thirdly, maybe that would make sense, right? Like maybe you're okay with that. Maybe that is a decent cost and you're going to get something else out of it down the line. Is a longer email list a real KPI for you? And how many of those people are actionable? Because what you did is tell them that your price is wrong.
Yeah, we had this discussion 2 weeks ago with John McDonald, who like I really liked his stance around discounts, and especially the stance around like if you aren't setting a good expectation for what comes with providing this email address, right? Because it basically for some brands means we will email you 3-4 times a week, right? Like, so what will those emails be like? Expectation setting, it all comes back to a customer journey. I like the angle you're taking because it's all about cleaner data. Mm-hmm. So in Shopify, is it the template choice that is wrong? So if we can go back and we can find templates that allow us to communicate what we do for your problem in the hero and in the navigation, then beyond that, like now we've got a customer journey, right? Like you've somehow convinced Google to send more people here because you're more of an authority on this topic. So from there, what else can you do to that Shopify template to improve that journey to transaction?
Yeah, fair. So from a consumer perspective and from a search engine perspective, the fewer steps, the better. So you don't want a website that is 1 million stacked landing pages. You want it to be homepage, whatever it is you do, checkout, and almost nothing else. So all of the articles about writing blogs and having all this extra content and making the about you super robust, that is not a value to a consumer or to a search engine. So that is sort of where like the hacky stuff comes in, and it interrupts your flow. And it's part of the reason that Shopify templates are so big and so long, that people asked for, a 15-page template. You don't need it. You need 2 and then a checkout page. You do then, though, want the information to be navigable both for you, both for the consumer, the human, and for a search engine. So if you say something, and this happens on almost all Shopify templates, you go into the template and you're on your homepage and it has the drop-down menus, and you go into the menus and it'll say like products, right? You click into it. If you are selling a product, you're in the vitamin example, subscription model, and you're going to go and it's like women's vitamins, iron, whatever the 10 different ones are. When you go into the URL, Shopify preloads URLs for you because that's like the irritating part of coding. The URL needs to match whatever it is you're saying on that page. It almost never does. So almost all Shopify templates will say something like /products, and you don't call it that. You call it vitamins. It's not going to break the website, but it does mess up your data score. It does mess up your quality score, that the page address does not match the page destination. It physically does. Like from a web dev perspective, the page is still there. But from a search engine perspective, you're disagreeing with what the data points are. So when I, the consumer, then go to navigate in and out of things, the search engine is going to have a hard time with it, and I'm going to have a hard time with it. What tab was I looking at? Was I looking at women's vitamins? So that is part of a Shopify structure. The next one is the layout of products in most of the Shopify templates that look nice, do not allow for data. So homepage is the most important page. The next page, which should be your shopping page, is the next most important page. And that is going to be a landing page of groups of products, right? That is not the place to have it be only images, or only images and then name and then price. We are used to that. That became like a very popular model. The score that you get for that is very low because there's no information on it. You want there to be information on the product. And from a customer journey, I should not be clicking on all of these. I should be clicking on the one that's appropriate to me. And I, the human, should know what that is as soon as I get to the landing page. And that should be in your left-hand nav. And it should also be when I'm physically looking at it. I should know what that's for. I should be able to see the bullets on that homepage. Does it look messy? It does. Is it better use case for customers and for search engines? Yes. Shopify makes it prettier. In the more popular templates, it takes away a lot of that area and it makes it like a very clean setting. We get very used to that in that all the sort of like cool kids did that. And so that's what like a good website looks like. It's not functional for me or for a search engine. And then again, if I get to your landing page and I'm clicking around and I can't find the thing that I want, one, this is destroying your relevancy score. From a search engine, I can't find anything that I want. It's just going down and down and down, which is making your costs go up and up. But also, then when you go back to your data, when you go to pull your site data and you're going to release a new product and you want to make sure that it fits, you don't know what I wanted. And you can't tell because when I was searching for what I wanted, I couldn't get there. So there's no actionable data. I put in the thing that I wanted, described it the way that I would describe it. There was no result for me. Like it didn't come up that way. You either don't make the product or you do and I couldn't find it, or I did find it, but I found it like 10th. So when you pull that site data down, it looks like I want to scroll through your site and check. I don't. Human beings do not. They don't. When you pull site data off, it looks like people like to like hunt for what they want. They don't. They're lost. Make it short. And the thing is that like you get a lot of data back, or you get like surveys back from people saying that they did that. That isn't how actual human beings solve problems, and it isn't how they find things. So what's happening is we're making the customer experience worse and harder because we are seeing what other people did, and they're maybe the name brand in our field. And we're like, okay, well, if that one did it, and I am also in that space, like I will do a similar model, right? The next takedown from that is because it's a subscription product and it's consumable, every month you're letting them pick a new product. Every month when I'm like, this is irritating. I cannot find vitamin C to save my life on this. I'm just going to use a different brand and I'm just going to cancel your subscription. Maybe I'll come back. You'll have to pay more money to get me to come back. And maybe you did solve my problem. Maybe you always had the thing that I wanted, but I couldn't find it. That is very easy in a template when it's visual only. So you want to be concentrating on the linkages in the back end. And those are mostly going to be around what I searched for needs to match what you said it was, right? Mm-hmm. You can't do that. If you have a Shopify template with a bad rank, you won't be able to do it from your website. The data will be gibberish. So you want to back out a little bit and do it in like a Google keyword analysis or trend analysis from like a brand agnostic perspective. And it will show you word for word what people typed. It should mirror what happened on your site. So if I got to your site and I'm like, okay, great, found the vitamin, one, I gave them my email, I got the 10% off, and I'm just trying to find vitamin C for women. Can I find it? And if I can find it, did it only take me one click?
So that to me is like creating the quickest path for them to get what they want. Where do you stand? We always ask this and I get great answers, right? Where do you stand if you are a company that sells standalone products and subscription products? What do you think the best experience is in that checkout? Does it default to subscription and you change it to one time? Does it default to one time, but you highlight that subscription is an option? Like, what have you seen work well? And what do you think is the good journey there?
The best that I have seen is that you don't wait to check out. The best I've seen is on the product detail page. It is, especially if the price is going to be different, it's this product is a 30-day supply and that is X number of dollars, or you can have it on subscription every 30, 45, 60 days. And those are different items that you buy. Right. So like that's harder from a coding perspective. And I know that's kind of tricky in Shopify, but the best version is to have them pick there when they want it. The next best is to have it be in the checkout, but have it default to single and have, do you want to subscribe and save maybe in different colored writing next to it.
Okay.
I wouldn't default to subscription because that makes people really mad. People get very, the potential to feel as though you've been tricked or scammed is very high online. And a lot of D2C go-to-market tips revolve around that. A lot of them are on the like, say it's 2-day shipping and just like winky face, forget to say that it's like after it drops, which is 10 days from now, or that it's, you know, the price is $49 and then in like teeny tiny writing, like it starts at, you know what I mean? Like people are very used to these like tactics and sort of like tricks being given to them, particular to D2C. Remove those as much as possible. Like they will figure it out. And if they're wrong and they paid for the full price one and they really want a subscription, like make that easy to change for sure. Like let that be a until it ships kind of thing, or add it in and throw in a different thing. But I would never default to the one that could make them feel taken advantage of. I would default to the one that they put in their basket and then in a different color so you can tell. Be like, are you sure? These are vitamins. You're gonna be out in 30 days. You would just like auto ship it to you and have that be a luxurious experience. Have that be like, oh, I would love to do this for you. Did you know that I can do this extra nice thing for you? And not in like a like, haha, you don't know that's
you just subscribed.
Right. Like,
okay. So here's what I would pose to you. Say I am a new merchant coming to you as a consultant. Not a new merchant, but like my margins suck. Okay. All right. So would you kind of walk me through what you walk those clients through in terms of like the phases of first we tackle this? I'm assuming it's the site itself and whether it's ranking and how to get it ranking better. And then like move into like how you take them from how the transformation, right? Of what mistakes they have made that are making things more difficult and kind of cleaning those out to an improved year over year, right?
Yeah. We always start with the site audit. We always go into, tell me what your problem is. And as we are talking about the problem, I'm going to pull up your website. It's always the same 3 or 4 mistakes. It's always that 1 or 2 templates that have no rank. And that's the first biggest one. That is the worst offender. And it's the one that is the hardest to get over emotionally, not physically. They're super easy to fix.
Yeah, it's painful even right now. Like,
yeah,
gosh, it's so pretty.
Yeah. Right. It's pretty. It's yours. It looks the way you wanted it to. People told you it was a good idea. Like the internet is awash in bad advice around D2C. So there's a lot of like, no, I did Shopify template 4 that everybody else did. So it looks the same as everyone. We all have millennial pink. It all has that stupid ticker tape across the top. I have 85 pop-ups. I am in line with everyone in my cohort. And you're like, you are all tied for last, which is great because if you're the one who fixes it, you get a ton of traffic immediately. And that is always the biggest tell. I'm like, I'm gonna fix this part. Then you're going to believe me. Like you're going to start, your margins are going to vastly improve, your traffic is going to go through the roof, and you're going to start making more money. Like I promise you that this thing that looked cool is a terrible idea. Like take it down. we always start there. And there's always some version of the homepages are all of them. I think I've seen like 6 Shopify templates that don't have this, where it's just images on the top, and that really ruins your score. So first and foremost is always, what is your thesis? Get that up top. And that always improves people. So it takes 30-ish days for the ranking changes to move, but there's always a huge pop at the 30-day mark. And you're like, yes, that was the initial problem. And then we kind of do that for all the pages. Like, is this laid out well? Is this a short path to purchase? Is this a short solution? And then go through like, what do you think you solve? Is that clear? Like if your brand thesis, and this is the other one that's also very emotional, is that like when we create our brands and our brand voice and how we envision us going to market, that is almost never similar to what a consumer thinks and wants. Right. And like this happens a lot in luxury and it happens a lot in beauty, this sort of like beautiful story. And like no one is searching for that. No one understands what you're talking about. And no purchaser is like, yep, I want the lilac water story. They just don't. They want the one that's for sensitive skin, right? But that's boring. So we have to go into that too, of like, you think you're this. What does the market think? And this is always a big one too. Again, particular to subscription models, actually. Do you know your actual addressable market? And are you meeting them? Like if you think your best product is this acne medicine, and it's not, like you are not solving the problem for teenagers, but you do inexplicably have this, or maybe not inexplicably, but you didn't realize this, but you have an amazing wrinkle cream. And also wrinkle creams are super difficult to buy on the market. They either burn your face off or they do nothing. Yours actually does something, and it's a problem that people talk about. That is now your hero product. That is where your actual traffic is coming from, because that has add-on ability. That is something that they consistently will want. Like acne cream, that's good for a year. Children grow out of that. That is not ever what you want to make your hero product be, is something that has a very definitive shelf life, even if you make the best one on the market, because then you're constantly bringing in new entrants to the market, right? It's not a sustainable way to run a subscription model. You should have your base that will be there until they die. And then also you want to have the incremental pieces that might be cool, but they're going to be cool for a little bit, right? So like in summer, you have one different product in summer for your vitamins. You're not going to promote it the rest of the year. It doesn't make sense, or unless you ship worldwide, in which case you'll be doing a 6-month cycle. But that shouldn't be your real product. That's not really the one that your people come from. So like, and that's a big one in D2C. It's always like you have this cool, interesting, innovative product, but only like 2% of women over 50 are going to use it. And that's your market. But you do make product that 86% of women over 50 would use. Did you talk to them? Are they in your market? Do they know that you exist? Do they know that this product exists? And I think that is the big underpinning, particularly of this kind of consumable model, is that people are not brand loyal at all. I wouldn't get upset about that. I would take a look at the solution that you offer and be super duper clear on what it is in the way that that person wants to find out about it, and structure your site accordingly, right? Like there's also a point of at the checkout when you're going to be doing add-ons. Those are really important and people really trust those. They're consistently terrible, and they're terrible even in big players. Like in Amazon, you may also like is the weirdest list of stuff you have ever seen. That is a huge miss. That is a gigantic, strange miss. If I am buying phone cords from you, you should be like, all these 5 things go with that. Do you have these 5 things? You're gonna need these too. And it should be very clear and in line. If you are doing vitamins, it should be add-ons to the vitamins that I'm purchasing, not any other vitamin in your shop, but specific add-up ones to that. If I am buying adaptogens, don't offer me 9 different sizes of the same adaptogen. Offer me other things that go with that. That also, and this is sort of like next tier, once you have a cleaner website and you have a cleaner customer profile, you should know what I, the human, want. So not just people in my cohort and not people on your site. I should get there and you should offer me what I want. And part of that will add on to the subscription. This is also where your margins improve and your CAC goes down, is that you don't need to try that hard to get me into other products. And you don't need to try that hard to solve problems for new entrants to your brand, because your website is telling this clean adult story, not from branding, from like an actual data perspective. Like I, the human, buy these 4 things together. That Google should be telling me that. I should be searching for the problem I want, and they should be like, yep, it's vitamin XYZ. And also they have these other things. I should see that in Google Shopping, and I should see that on your page. The page that Google serves to me should be the one that is the most important one. That's not going to be your homepage. And if it is your homepage right now, You are not explaining your solutions very well.
Okay. So you go through a phase with them where you audit the homepage, the template, the look, and you have to go through the emotions of getting over how we want it to look a particular way because we think that's how it should look. But the Google is like, I don't want to say colorblind, but it's like image blind.
Yes.
Right. So we have to think of it as being image blind and start figuring out what words, like if I was selling this to someone who is blind, what words would I need to use for them to understand and make choices?
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got to get through what is probably well, this was our first product. So we think like we built our brand on this product, but to be flexible enough to understand that you should be alpha selling what the market the audience that you have is demanding, and kind of change the story so that is the thesis of that story, right? Okay, so one thing that you talked about that I think is really interesting and could be interesting for this audience, and then we will wrap with one last question, because the end of that story, guys, is that once you do that, you get a profitability flywheel because you have more people in love with your brand because you made it easy for them to find you and to share about you. And now your ads are cheaper because you have domain authority. Oh, actually 2 questions, because I see one in the chat as well. Okay. The next one that I think is interesting is you're talking about delivering products that someone who has a history with your brand might be interested in, right? Mm-hmm. We, as subscription merchants, or I don't say we, but I serve subscription merchants, and they think a lot about what they offer in that upcoming shipment email, right? Because we can customize if it's by renewal count or if it's by product type subscribed to. Then you can start getting into offering a custom set of products based on what they've subscribed to. So have you seen that done successfully? And I would assume it's very similar in approach to what you are going to show if someone gets back through Google, but they've already chosen to renew. You're just now telling them, hey, here's a complimentary set. And I think you make sense with vitamins in particular, right? Like, just because I subscribe to this vitamin doesn't mean I want to try these others that solve problems that I don't have. So I don't know if that's even a question or like, hey, am I thinking in that same vein? Because this is like the recurring customer journey versus the one-time through customer journey.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring up. And I think it would be true of your first customer also. Like, I think we should have the intelligence in that first basket when we're confirming what we're shipping them of being like, did you get all the stuff that goes together? Mm-hmm. Right. And like, maybe the expectation is that they only needed that one thing and they won't buy it. But in terms of giving a good customer experience, if your product goes with other products, that's the time to point it out to them. Right. And I think this isn't done super well, but it's a good example. Fenty Beauty, Rihanna's beauty line, came out with refillable lipstick compacts. So you buy the compact and then you buy the bullet of color separately, and you like click it in, and it's cute and like kitschy and whatever. Finding the actual compact, super difficult. Buying the bullets, the easiest thing ever, except you can't use it unless you buy the compact, and the first one doesn't come with it. Those are the types of things that, like, if I put that color bullet in my basket, that is when you want someone to come up and be like, do you have the case? Should not be able to use it without it. It's going to be the same thing with vitamins. There are vitamins that go together. There are vitamins that fight each other. You want those call outs to be in those emails to be like, are you taking both of these? Because they cancel each other out. Or if you are taking this one, it is improved greatly by taking this other one that we also sell. I'm not suggesting that you have to have that every month, but that's really where like a warm customer experience comes in. Mm-hmm. And that is where clean data comes in, right? Like, you should know what people do buy, and you should be able to see problems in the future. If you're only ever buying razor subscription, and we make a shaving cream that goes very well with our specific razors, that needs to be explained in a way that makes sense and is not an add-on. That needs to be explained in like just so you know, the soap that you use with this metal is going to matter. And the blades are going to dull and you're going to cut yourself. Do you have shaving cream? Doesn't have to be ours, but like, do you? Because this is going to be important for your use case. And the razor one is important because all the razor brands that do this have very odd things that they add to their baskets, and they're not helpful. It's just sort of like a random, like, hey, we make shampoo. And you're like, cool. But don't you make products that go with your razor that would be useful? Like a travel case, like the soap that goes with the blades, like a way to clean it, like, and that's what consumers want. And in fairness to all these brands, because their websites are not clean, they are not getting that data back. You should be in a feedback loop with your consumers' behavior on what they want. And that is what you should be adding to these experiences. Because yes, it'll increase your basket size, and yes, it makes people lifetime value go up, and it makes them stay longer, and it makes them happy. But also, like, that's how you beat your competitors. The way that you're differentiating yourself in these very clogged markets is that everyone says that they do everything, and not everyone is water. So what is the one thing that you do? And I think you can't do that until you have clean data back, because you're just going to be in a feedback loop of my ads that I bought, that I set up, are agreeing with me. And you're like,
So here's a good one. We have some customers who are getting into it's a great strategy, I think, where they are doing a freebie with that subscriber shipment. Ideal if that freebie, right, accompanies, like if you got the razor, wouldn't the great freebie be the shave cream? Right. But additionally, what I'm seeing some really smart brands do is when they do a freebie, which they can do through the email and people can claim it, or it can just be in the box, right? Like we are just going to assume that everyone who ordered this month gets this giveaway, right? Or a sample, right? The next email they get telling them, hey, your next set of items is coming, should have that in the potential upsell opportunity, should have that item. So like, we gave you the cream free last month. If they liked it, there should be a path for them to purchase it or add it to their subscription.
Yes, there definitely should. I would say be careful with the notion of surprise and delight. It very rarely works. So yes, if you are a razor and you have a shaving cream and it's specific to the razor, I would call that out in the checkout. I would put like we're going to include like this first time gift for you. Like, let us know what you think. 1, get reviews from it. And 2, tell them what it is and what it's for. Because just opening a box and having a random item in it is a weird experience. And it does not create the following you think it would. And then I think what happens is people then do follow up in the next email being like, want more shaving cream? And you're like, no, I never asked for shaving cream. And then it's confusing because you didn't tell me what it was for. So I maybe didn't even use it, or maybe I thought it smelled weird.
Flesh out the story, like give it right. So maybe it comes with a slip of paper or an email that says, hey, we included this and here's why, and use it this way. Okay. I love that. To me, that's the equivalent of the soup company or the broth company sending soup recipes. Yeah. This is a great soup for October and you have this product. Here's what you can do with it. I'm going to read a question from the chat. Love the thoughts being shared. It's from Zach. Curious on the go-to-market side. Say you're getting ready to introduce a new product line that you haven't sold before. What does the strategy need to look like leading up to the launch?
So first and foremost, take a look at why you're creating the new product line. Presumably you have information that people wanted it and you have a focus on who your person is and where it would be. I would take a look at 1, how it slots into your other products. 2, I would tease the fact that you're adding this new line and it's either adjacent to your product, adds into your original product, or it's a new customer segment. Those would have 3 different strategies. So 1, if it's an addition and like we made razors and now we make shaving cream for the razors, that is an upsell potential that sits with it. So it's you would use the reviews for the razors. You would use negative reviews for the razors actually. And you would say like, this gives me razor bumps, blah, 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 and be like, we saw the problem and we solved it. We made the soap is what goes with it. You want razor bumps, right? So the go-to-market there is problem solution that is adjacent to your hero product. If it is one that is incremental to your product, we made razors that we found specific for face instead of legs or body hair or head or what have you. The blades are different. This is why it's different. You want to be fleshing out what problem you are solving and why you felt you needed an additional product and to reach that person. I am team no discounts. There's you're not getting the right person and you're training them for the wrong price. So first and foremost, that whole incentive to try should be a real incentive. Why am I trying this? It's for a problem, right? And it's going to suit me, right? So presumably, however you got to that data and however you decided to land on this new product, it's going to be one that you have some idea of who that person is. Is it your email list and it's an upsell? Great. Is it adjacent to your email list? You made very female-focused products and now you add a male-focused product. And if you know that most of them are potentially heterosexual or are married or have partners or whoever, you have a path into why you decided to do that. If you didn't have that and you just thought it was a cool idea and you made a new product, which happens all the time, I think that's a separate thing, which is just sort of like, this is why we ideated it. This is the problem that we saw. And it's maybe not adjacent to our products at all, but people on our site, these are the things that we do know about you. And this is why we made this product. And that is where mass personalization is sort of an easy way to do it. In fairness, you do need to have a good website and you do need to be able to scrape that data from it so that this will make sense to whoever you're talking to. But the way that you set up that go-to-market is very clear, solution first. This is why, this is what, this is how. The next part, and there are some like numerical caveats to this. When your website is clean, you should have 80 to 90% organic unpaid traffic to your site. That's not true of any D2C sites, but that is how consumers shop and how they work. If your site is clean, you also do not need to promote this new product. It should be on your homepage that you have a new thing, and you should maybe send an email if it's appropriate to your customers. But if you are describing the problem correctly, and the people have that problem, and it's been live for 30 days, because again, indexing, they will come to you. You do not need to do crazy outreach. If you want incremental traffic and incremental dollars, that's where you run a social ad or a TikTok ad, or you set up an email blast. I, again, still would not do a promotion, but give things time. So the product launch is not the day that you are doing all of your marketing around it. Launch it quietly, so it sits on your site for 30 days and gets indexed information behind it. Once you have a score on that, then you can buy ads against it if you feel that you need to. Then they will be an appropriate price. If you buy ads before then, you are announcing that you know that you do not solve the problem you say you solve, and the floor will stay that high. So a big one in terms of your margins within your go-to-market are, you need to set it up for the way the system is perceiving it, right? So it needs to be live on site for at least 30 days. You'd have an appropriate index against it. So go into your Google account or Yahoo account or whatever and confirm that you have an appropriate rank for it. Then make sure that the traffic of the people that you think you're serving can see it. All of that before you do the sort of like trade marketing version.
That quiet launch will give you an opportunity to get some feedback that you could then incorporate into.
Correct. Although likely you won't, in full honesty, it won't show up anywhere. So like likely you won't. And maybe you seeded people before then. That's
okay. Yeah.
Depends on the product.
A lot of our brands use like subscription customers to get that kind of feedback. Like, hey, we are launching a new product. We are going to include it in your next box and would love to know what you think about it. Like to kind of do the thing that gets away from subscribe and save to subscribe and feel valued is what I like to think of that as. Is so it's like, because you are this type of loyal customer, we'd like to reward you and then use, your insights, or what do you think we should make next? You are the person buying from us, right? What else do you want from us in our brand? Whether that's a flavor or an adjacent product or the soap that you need for the razor, right? Zach says, awesome, super insightful. Thank you for asking questions, Zach. So my last question is always, what would you like to ask of us? And this is always like kind of a surprise to the guest, but you have kind of an audience of people who either sell subscription products or serve people who sell subscription products. And we'd love to kind of let you turn the table and ask what you, sometimes people use it for like a feedback on a process or something. Like literally we've had people come on here and say like, hey, have you tried our product? Or so it can be anything that you feel like you might gain insight from us. So it's kind of me trying to immediately give you some value in addition to having you on, which has been great.
I appreciate it. It has been great. Thank you. I'd love to know pain points. I'd love to know what people are mad about in their digital journey. Like, what is upsetting to you? What is
As a
bothering you?
consumer, like as a consumer on a website or as a merchant selling?
Either, anybody. Like,
Okay.
what is happening to you on, I mean, it's always better if it's your own brand and something that you were experiencing that's stressful for you, just because that's my business. But in general, you know, sometimes you miss the forest for the trees. Like, I'm very close to systems. So I would love to know, like, what you experience. What are the pain points that you wish were different? And what do you wish was different?
I feel like Seth is going to have a good one for this. I don't know why, because in the past you've talked about a good experience that you thought was going to be a bad one. So this is like, I feel like you've had bad experience that you might share.
So
and I'm thinking of mine.
Yeah. So I had a feeling that Ashley was going to throw this over to me, but
he knows me too well.
The first thing, something I really don't like on websites from a consumer perspective is, like Apple does this. If you're scrolling down a page, especially if it's a product page, there'll be animations of the product flying in and it's dependent on your scroll.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy because me personally, the mouse I use is a bit clicky. And so like when I scroll, it's not smooth scrolls like it would be on a touchpad.
Yeah.
So it ends up looking really ugly. And then they most of the time look bad on mobile too. And so it's this thought that I have that's similar a lot to what you were talking about, is like these huge websites and brands like Apple are doing this. And I'm like, why are we doing this? This doesn't really look good to me. And I would rather just be static images like that are, high quality photos. Like I love that kind of stuff. But the fact that it's animated, and if I scroll down the page and scroll back up, then the animation plays in reverse, and just super weird.
It's mad. And God bless the agency that talked them into that. Like every now and again, you're like, ooh, that salesperson, like you got that commission.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a tendency to see something I'm interested in a Facebook carousel ad like situation, like Wayfair, right? Like they'll hit me with stuff I looked at, right? And say like, you've got great taste. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do have great taste. Thank you. What I don't like is if I don't go through on their ad, but I go to their site, I have a really hard time finding the thing I saw in the ad. Like it's like buried. And it's not even on sometimes a retargeting ad. It's something they showed me new. And so my complaint there is when the shopping experience in Facebook is like better than the going to the site. And I don't like, maybe I just like swiping and seeing things, but I will literally go to a site just to get retargeted. So that it will show up in my Facebook or Instagram, like a feed that then I can like be like, I want to find that thing I used to. So I do not like when it is difficult to find something I've seen through my own path versus the advertising path.
Yeah. The misaligned systems are a weird choice. And it is the least charitable version is its laziness. The most charitable version is something that I call sort of like the Frankenstein version of your go-to-market, which is that you found the best photographer for photos, and you found who you consider the best SEO person for SEO, and you found the best developer and the best graphic designer. And so they each made their version of a thing, and they do not connect to each other. So we see a lot of Frankenstein backends where there would be no way to pass you. Once you click into that ad, you should be clicked into that product detail page first and foremost. So it's incredibly strange when that doesn't happen. And that is because the agencies that run them are different. And so they're not connecting to each other. You need that data linkage back, one, from a consumer perspective, but two, also in fairness, from a search engine perspective. It's real weird that you said that you wanted that couch and it brings you to, and Wayfair is notorious for this, and it brings you to like that gym water bubbler. And you're like, who is buying this? Did you put it all over my Instagram, Wayfair? Who?
And then my other thing, and this is like gonna feel self-serving because it's coming from a brand that does this, but I do not like, if I am a subscriber, I do not like getting emails between subscription renewals that are trying to sell me more things.
Yeah.
Like I do not, like I feel like you should value me more than to like continually hit me up between notifications.
Yeah. And the thing is, psychologically, everyone agrees with you, but also psychologically, if the subscription service had good data on their website and they hit you up for a product that you actually need because you've searched for it, you would feel loved and cherished.
Interesting.
But they don't. They're hitting you up for
Right.
everything under the sun, and you don't want any of it. And then you feel like you don't love me. Like, I buy products from you once a month. You know exactly what I want. Like, why are you sending me this nutball email? And it's a very emotional response, right? Like, I've given you all of my data. You know exactly what I want. If you are sending me emails off cycle and for things that you don't know that I want, it's offensive, right? Like, why am I in a relationship with you? Why am I dealing with you month over month if you keep harassing me for like men's Rogaine? I am not a man and I have tons of hair, and there's no earthly reason that you're sending me this, right? But if something came up, if you were like, oh, but you want like an eyebrow pencil? I sure do. Thank you for letting me know. And you could do that to me every day. If you were meeting a need of mine, I would be psyched to give you money. But you're asking me for money for things I don't want, and that is emotionally offensive.
So last comment from Zach, he said that he hates ads that look like they're supposed to be products from the site he's on, but they're not.
Oh, that is maddening. Like a furniture one where you're like, oh, that table is great. And they're like, just kidding, we're selling the cups. You're like, I hate you. Wait there. Does that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I have a magazine background. And so I used to be editorially very opposed to, say, the jewelry product roundup that I was working on, the white background and the jewelry floating and all the style of the magazine. I was super opposed to the jewelry company that advertised opposite that mimicked the design that it looked like a full page spread, but really theirs was an advertisement and ours was not. And so I would intentionally change the design on a month-to-month basis. Right? Like, we're going to do all black. We're going to shoot them all on flowers this month, or we're going to do like this, because I like think there needs to be a difference. There's one thing to align, but there's another, like, I feel honestly like you're not going to realize it is a product in an editorial flow if it doesn't feel offset and different, like aligned, but different. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the crowd or comments? We've gone a little long, but it's been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Katharine. Where can people find you online?
Morphologylabs.com is the easiest.
Okay, morphologylabs.com. And she's also, I feel like, running like a series on LinkedIn right now. It's about luxury brand go-to-market, correct?
Luxury brand digital go-to-market. And we did CPG previous. So if you feel like digging, there's also some CPG ones.
Okay, so they can just go and like go even further backwards than I did through your LinkedIn. Excellent. And it was a pleasure having you on. Best to everyone. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday. We'll see you on the interwebs.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.